On the county wanted to do away with us because they want our money. Because we have money, because we manage it properly, our levy is low, and we've done a good job because everybody enjoys and likes what they're doing, and hopefully that will always continue. And I think just by showing respect and listening and wait until they leave the room to do what you want to do. So sorry, I didn't really mean that.
So, one of the key things, I think, for the staff is to know your supervisor's personality, because supervisors come in all shapes and sizes, and some of them are full-time, some of them are part-time, some of them really want to be on autopilot and have the staff handle as much as they can and remind them of deadlines, and others are a little more controlling and want to be more involved and only want their staff to do things when delegated. So it's really key that you understand that up front so that you're not either failing to perform something that is expected of you that you didn't know about, or stepping on someone's toes who's also working on the same thing as you. It's also, what I like to tell staff members is that you're stuck in the middle with the attorneys whenever it comes to different political seasons. So it's really key to understand, does your supervisor have the political support of the whole board or not? Or, you know, how does that come into play? Not because you should get in the middle of that, but because it's going to have an impact on how you work. If you get an assignment from the supervisor and you know that the township board votes down everything that the supervisor puts forth or something like that, then that might tell you how much time you're going to spend on a project or not, depending on what it is. Maybe you can suggest that it comes before the board for a vote, before a lot of action is taken. But understand that dynamic and try to operate within it, because you may get stuck in the middle of some uncomfortable situations. The other thing you need to understand is your relationship with the clerk. And the reason why I bring this up is I find that administrators and the clerks usually have a very close working relationship, but it's different than the relationship with the supervisor, who generally directs the role of the township administrator. A lot of times what I find is that a lot of the functions of the office of the clerk fall upon the administration and the staff. Again, it depends on the clerk, but I know a lot of administrators who, for example, are asked to actually type up the minutes, and then the clerk will review them. And I know in some circumstances the township administrators are upset about that because it takes them away from other functions that they need to be performing, and they're feeling like clerks should be kind of handling those. But those are issues you kind of just have to tackle head on head with the person who's holding that particular elected office. This is one of the areas, though, that I want to make sure that you watch out for, because clerks have the ability to hire deputy clerks if the township board permits them to do so, but the functions that they can delegate by law to deputy clerks are very limited. So it's not that a deputy clerk can just do everything that the clerk can do in the clerk's absence. So you need to make sure that you're aware of that. Sometimes the administrator is appointed, or a different staff member, to be a deputy clerk, and there's nothing wrong with that. But make sure that you're aware of what functions you can and cannot be performing are. Any insights on that issue?
Well, in our office, the clerk does all the minutes. She does her own thing. She, Terry may help her, I may help her, miscellaneous things, but she pretty much, she's part-time, I'm full-time. And she does all the minutes and gets all the recording equipment ready and records tapes and stashes. Stores the tape, excuse me. But no, it works well. And, and if need be, Terry can help her do something, because we're pretty flexible. But everyone, and it comes down to respect and showing appreciation for each person and buying them treats every now and then.
Yeah, in our township, the clerk takes care of handling all the minutes and everything, but she usually runs the drafts by me before they go to the full board. So she can get my perspective on something that maybe been said at the meeting that she didn't capture fully or whatever. Even though it's recorded, it's just another person is in the room and how maybe that is perceived. And so we'll finesse the minutes a little bit before they go to the board, and then they have a chance to, hear them or see them as well.
The other thing that you should clearly understand is what is the protocol for interacting with your board. If there's something going on, does your supervisor want everything channeled through the supervisor and then it goes to the board? Or are you free to speak with other people that are having other issues? And does a trustee have the ability to call you up and assign you something? Can the highway commissioner do that? Those are the things that just have to be clear. Again, there's no right or wrong, but what I find is that people are very frustrated in that position if it's not clear. All right. The other thing is understand your relationship to other staff. How many employees are in Palatine Township?
In the township office, 22.
And so you're pretty much responsible on a day-to-day basis for assigning what they do?
Yeah, we have department heads that are direct reports, but then they each have, 2 or 3 or whatever people. They could be a single person that handles the position, but it's like 5 direct reports and then their staffs.
And then the staff for the assessor and the highway commissioner, they report to the individual elected officials, or they also report to you?
Yeah, yes, the road district's in a different building, so the superintendent is my counterpart there, takes care of everything with them. We have a good working relationship, so it works all right. It works out fine because they help me with projects that I'm not skilled in, construction and things like that, and then we help them with operations issues. And for the assessor's office, it's really kind of a dotted line because we help them where needed, for administrative operations, computer things, but they're autonomous in regards to reporting to me for anything because they do work directly for the assessor.
So how many of you are in townships with more than 5 employees? Okay, so we just have a couple there. And how many of you have more than 10 employees? More than 15? Oh my goodness. Okay, we have some big townships here then. How many of you have unions? Any of you? Okay, wow, I'm surprised about that. That's kind of uncommon in the township arena. So Patrick, what is your interaction with the staff? Do you supervise all of the staff or?
I have 2 full-time persons that work with me. The road commissioner doesn't have anyone other than his 4 employees. And then he comes to me and or Terry, and I always seem to know. I don't demand it, but I always like to know what's going on, so I'm not surprised. And then our assessor has 4 employees, which are unionized. And she comes to me if she's got issues. The big thing is that I manage the building that we're in, and that was an issue for someone a few years ago, but now we got that worked out because the supervisor technically is the manager of the building, so I'm responsible for, well, everything, maintenance-wise and scheduling. And our building is used probably 120 times a year by other agencies, and I try to limit it to a semblance of taxing bodies. Like we got I just forgot their name, the dog lovers. It's a group of people that are into, they just passed a referendum, by the way, so 70%. But, groups like that, and then CERT, Citizens Emergency Response, they meet there, the sheriff's auxiliary. So I manage that, and but it works out pretty well, because like I said, we all get around, but I don't have 22 or 50 or...
So from your perspective then, what makes a good staff member to you?
Just someone that does their job and asks questions and doesn't make any really assumptions. And I'm not afraid. It's just that where I'm at and maybe where you guys are at is different, but if something goes wrong, it's always me. Or I have to answer to it. And all I ask is that you let me know what's going on, and I'll protect you or best I can, defend you, but I just don't want to be surprised.
Well, except having worked so closely with you, I think if something is going wrong, it usually is you. No. Just kidding.
And you know what? Matt,
did you want to say something?
No, he said it was all on him, and I said, well, that's kind of what we do as administrators.
Oh yes, the role of
You guys
scapegoat
agree, yeah.
is kind of assigned throughout the different levels of township government. All right, next here. Okay, and go on. Oh, so here's a question. How do you survive and thrive in an environment where you have different political factions sometimes?
Well, if there are things that come up that are political, I just tell them that, that's not our position at the township as employees, and we won't be involved in it. So, and doesn't come up. I mean, I've never in the 5 years I've been there had somebody come to me and say, I need you to do this, and it being a political thing. It's just if things are out there in the community and, I say, well, you know what, we're not going to get involved in it because we're apolitical, and, and the supervisors have always said, you're right, we're not going to get involved in it. So we stay away from, those types of things.
So I'm going to talk in a moment about political activities as it relates to the township, because there's some things we need to address with that. But even not working on campaign issues and things like that, what do you do when you see different dynamics on the board? Like, not a partisan political thing, but that people are supporting something on that might be 3-2 vote. Have you ever had a chance to observe issues like that?
Yes.
In other townships around you, but not on your board?
Oh, I didn't say that at first. Yeah, I mean, sure, the township board argues, and, everybody's board probably does, but they usually work it out. I mean, there's been some things that they haven't, but from my perspective, maybe it didn't go the way that I would have liked it to go, or it did, opposite of the other people. But, for the most part, we really haven't had any huge things that the township board can't get around. It usually just takes a while to work through it, and it's a lot of discussion. And recently, with the new supervisor, she instituted a committee meeting of the whole once a month, where we didn't have that before. So that's where they can get together and hash out things and argue about things and prolong it as long as they want prior to the board meeting. And so a lot of those nuances are worked out by the time it gets on the agenda. Then they kind of decide what it is, and they can finally, have a final discussion, and it's over with. So those types of issues that are difficult to begin with are worked out usually at a committee meeting whole, and if it doesn't, then it sometimes gets postponed for a month or two, until they can come to some kind of conclusion.
Well, that's a good way to handle it. And I mean, all votes don't have to be unanimous as long as the township's moving forward. Okay. So one of the things we thought would be helpful to talk about on checklists is what should township staff be doing at different times. Now, I know both of you have independently told me that really the calendar and the perspective. Are you all familiar with the calendar and the perspective? We've attached a sample of that. And by the way, I also did attach a sample of a job description for an administrator to the materials, in case any of you kind of formalize that position within your staff. So just how do you remember all of the different deadlines and keeping up with whatever you're supposed to be doing?
I use the perspective, but I also use the top one there says see attached sample. We have one of those for every month. I don't know if it's in the handout, I presume it is. Mm-hmm. And that was just the month of January, and I picked that one because it had a lot of stuff going on with it. So you can see what it is we look at and how much in advance we look at it. And so we have that for 12 months of the year for everything that's required, and it especially has dates in there as far as when things have to be to the county, when things have to be brought up before the board for a vote in time to get to the county for the filing deadline, et cetera. That's a big thing. And the other thing I live by is Outlook calendar. I mean, I put everything on there. If there's a meeting of any sort or whatever, I put it on there, put it at 3 days ahead of time, 3 weeks ahead of time, an hour ahead of time, whatever. It rules my life in regards to everything that's going on, because you can't keep all of that in your head. I mean, with 22 people and 5 of them as direct reports, I know a lot of you have more than that, but that plus all the things that it's not sexist, but I'm the only man in the building except for a part-time bus driver and a part-time maintenance man. And so anything that's like